Hello, this is Archie Dunlop with Talking Astrology with Archie on Saturday, April the 20th, 2023. What is the most powerful sign of the zodiac? In terms of sun signs, that is. I mean, are people with the sun in Virgo stronger than people with the sun in Libra, etc.? So, all things being equal, the most powerful star sign is Leo. Reason being, if you've got your sun in Leo, it means that your sun is the ruler of Leo. And so, sun in Leo, sun is in the sign of its rulership, so it's going to be really strong. Second most powerful sign would be Aries. That's because when you've got your sun in Aries, the sun is exalted in Aries. So the sun is in the sign of its exaltation. Yet, in terms of my own observations and experiences, I'm not convinced that either Leo or Aries are the most powerful star signs. I actually think it might be Cancer. Now, if you think about some of the people who have had the most influence on certainly Western civilization, you think of Julius Caesar. Julius Caesar was a Cancerian. He laid the foundations of a very powerful Roman Empire. He created our calendar. Even after 2,000 years, he is still having a huge impact on our civilization. Another Cancerian is Alexander the Great. Now, Alexander the Great, he came from this small state in the Balkans, or southern Balkans, Macedonia. And his armies didn't just take out Greece, but they took out the whole of the Middle East, India. He set up stuff in, Cleopatra in Egypt. She was Greek. That was all because of Alexander's imperial achievements, and he died very young. But he accomplished so much in his life, and yes, he was a Cancerian. So, based on those two people, Cancers are a pretty powerful sign. I know that's a very small sample. Who is the richest man in the world? Well, I'm not quite sure who the richest man in the world, but is it Elon Musk? Might be Elon Musk. He's certainly one of the richest people in the world. It varies, I think, as stock prices change. And yes, Elon Musk is a Cancerian, and he is always in the news. So let's have a look at a recent news story involving Elon Musk. So let's see what this story says. Date from the Daily Mail, our favourite newspaper. Elon Musk doubles down on criticism of George Soros despite being branded anti-Semitic as he slams billionaire for funding politicians and DAs, I think that's short for district attorneys, who are soft on violent crime and cause great damage to many cities. Elon Musk on Monday said billionaire philanthropist and Holocaust survivor George Soros hates humanity and likened him to X-Men villain Magneto. I have no idea who Magneto is. I barely know who the X-Men are. Magneto aimed to conquer the world to enable mutants to replace humans. Musk was accused of anti-Semitism and apologized to Magneto. On Thursday, Musk doubled down, saying he felt Soros funded so many politicians and DAs who are soft, even on violent crime, harming US cities. So, what has this got to do with astrology? Well, I think it might have something to do with astrology, and I want to look at Elon Musk's chart, see if we can find anything interesting. So, looking at Elon Musk's chart, we see that he is, here we go, he's born on June 28th, 1971, in Pretoria, South Africa. We don't know what time he's born, which is a bit of a shame. You would have thought someone who is so famous, we at least would have, and he's still alive. And I think his mother's still alive. His mother appears on TV, and we haven't heard from her. At least I haven't heard from her in terms of her saying when her son was born. So that's it. That's what we got to work on. So he is a Cancerian. He's a water sign. He doesn't actually have any fire in his chart except for except for Neptune. Neptune is a generational planet, stays in a sign for over a decade. I don't think that Neptune in Sagittarius means anything. We're focusing on the traditional non-discovered planets going out as far as Saturn. And so he has got no fire in his chart. Now, that might sound surprising to you. Here is this dynamic billionaire who, he gets involved in Tesla, he gets involved in SpaceX, he's always saying stuff, he's on Joe Rogan, he's got opinions on everything, and yet he's got no fire in his chart. How does that work? Okay, this is what it is. It's that fire is about inspiration. It's about intuition. But it's about inspiration and intuition that comes from you yourself. You are the generator. And I don't think Elon Musk is a generator. He's a water sign. What he does, what he is very good at doing, is picking up on the emotional vibes going around in society. He picks up on people's hopes, fears, anger, frustration, and he feeds it back. So in a way, he's almost like a thermometer, except a very active thermometer. He does readings, and he responds to these readings. And because he has no fire in his chart, he couldn't actually create these things himself. He'd have to get it from outside and feed it back. So as a result, Elon Musk is someone who, although he appears to be a trendsetter, is actually someone who hangs on people's coattails. He's almost last one to the party. He's very successful being last one to the party, but he gets into something that's already popular. Like Bitcoin. People have been in Bitcoin for years. Suddenly Elon goes on about Bitcoin or Dogecoin. He just suddenly gets into it. With Tesla, I don't believe he actually founded Tesla. Other people did, but he got in on the act. And so I think this, in some ways, is his modus operandi. He gets in on the act, and I think that's how the water is working. He feels what's going on around him, and he's able to respond to what's going on around him, and that is the key to his success. So I think that is an important and perhaps surprising part of his chart. At the same time, he does have planets in air signs. So he's got Venus, Saturn, and Mars. He's got Venus and Saturn in Gemini, and he's got Mars in Aquarius. He's also got Uranus in Libra, but I don't really count Uranus as being a traditional planet. So with these three planets, he is able to communicate very well. Mars in Aquarius does enable him to show some apparent originality. He doesn't totally follow other people's lead. He is able to think outside the box. He has a certain ability to innovate, but it's not really the engine of who he is. The engine, I believe, is that Sun-Mercury conjunction in Cancer, and perhaps also, when in any chart you've got to look at the moon sign, and he's got the moon in Virgo, very focused on detail. Now, going back to the Daily Mail article, and him going on about George Soros and weak district attorneys, and George Soros supposedly funding liberals in the US. this has been something that people on the right, the maybe the I don't say the far right, but the maybe even the alt-right have been complaining about for a very long time. George Soros, George Soros is a hate figure. And so in a way, Elon Musk has picked up on this in his watery kind of way. He says, oh, yeah, George Soros, if he starts criticizing, he's kind of late to the party with this. People have been criticizing George Soros for years, and then Elon Musk comes along. And of course, picking up on people's fears, the fact that inner cities have become unlivable because of liberal DAs. Now, to be honest, I think he's got a point there. From what I can see, here in the city I'm living in, I was at a city council meeting on Monday, and some woman was talking about, people taking fentanyl outside her front door, and she's got grandchildren, and she's a veteran, and she has to deal with this, and it's not just in big cities. It's just this city here where I'm living. It is a problem, and I think Elon Musk is picking up on a very legitimate a legitimate fear that people have. And at the same time, he's talking about X-Men. He's picked up this popular image of X-Men, Magneto. He kind of knows what people want to hear. And I do think that is very very watery. Now, as far as what really matters in his chart, what makes him so rich? I mean, I don't find his chart particularly amazing, particularly wonderful, particularly exciting. Not least because I don't have his time of birth. But I think it had a lot to do with this mutual reception. He's got Moon in Virgo. In other words, the Moon is in a sign ruled by Mercury. And Mercury is in Cancer. So Mercury is in a sign ruled by the Moon. In other words, the Moon and Mercury in mutual reception. So that makes him very flexible. It gives him the ability to communicate. It gives him the ability to focus on the details that matter. I've no idea what the real secret to his success in Tesla and SpaceX and all this, but I suspect that he's got a very fine sense of detail there. He perhaps may not understand all the facts, but he can focus on the facts that matter, and he is able to communicate. So those are a few thoughts on Elon Musk's chart, and it is a shame that we don't have his time of birth. Now, as far as today's stars are concerned, Saturday, May the 20th, 2023, and actually I've set those for the East, so set those for the West Coast. I'll reset that to New York. So let's go to New York. There we go. Slightly different. So so that chart is set for noon, New York. What's happening? Well, the Moon is in Gemini. So it's a time when we've got a lot to talk about. But why are people talking? Are people talking because they genuinely got anything useful to say? Maybe not, because one feature of the Moon in Gemini is that it gets nervous, and particularly in social situations, it can use words as a kind of a smokescreen, using words to protect. People use words to protect themselves. We don't have to reveal too much about ourselves. If we keep talking about what we want to talk about, if we keep talking nonsense, people aren't going to know what's going on. So look at the way people are talking today. So if you're going to a party today, it is Saturday, people have parties on Saturday, look at how people are communicating. Try to analyze the content of what they're saying, because I think it's going to be pretty shallow, and the purpose of words is to defend, not to explore. Now, earlier in the day, the moon was making a sextile to making a square to Saturn. So at the beginning of the day, and particularly if you're in Europe or Asia, you may find that there's a lot of blockage there. We can't express ourselves properly. It may be difficult to get those ideas out. We might find that the people around us are quite oppressive. But if you can just stick it out, keep going, the moon's aspect to Saturn will pass, and we'll be able to get into our swing, and it shouldn't be too bad. Now, there are other things going on. Mars is going into Leo. I have a whole video on Mars in Leo, which you might want to watch. But Mars going to Leo is quite a big change, moving from Cancer to Leo. Cancer is a negative sign. It's quite defensive. It's quite home-orientated. Then you've got Mars. Mars is all about the ego. It's all about being the center of attention. So over the next 7 weeks, while Mars is moving through Leo, we're going to be really focused on ourselves. And today, we're going to see that people are quite into themselves, perhaps obsessively into themselves, and we may see pointless displays of force caused by just an obsession, an obsessive desire to get our way. And at the same time, you see, look, there's Mars, there's Pluto, and they're square Jupiter. So Mars is moving to the square of Jupiter, it's opposition Pluto. And so today and tomorrow, you're going to have this configuration coming up. And I actually think this configuration could be quite violent, could be quite ego-focused. Not necessarily on an individual level, but maybe more on a collective level. Now, I want to show you this chart looked at from a different perspective. I want to show you the 90-degree dial, sometimes called the fourth harmonic. I'm afraid I cannot explain how it's calculated. It is very easy, but if I tried to explain, you'd switch off. So let's just have a look at the 90-degree dial, which is kind of like an X-ray. There you go. So there's the 90-degree dial, and if I put the dial on 0 degrees Aries, there we go, we can see this fourth harmonic chart. It brings together Mars, Pluto, and Jupiter. So there's the Mars-Pluto opposition, there's Jupiter on the square. So basically anything which is opposition, conjunction, or square is recalculated to make it a conjunction on this. And so there's the Sun, and there's the Aries point. The Aries point is the world at large. So this axis of symmetry brings together the Sun with Mars, Pluto, and Jupiter. And so that suggests that over the weekend we're going to see huge amounts of force. People are going to be desperate to push their agenda, regardless of what happens. That may be particularly important in terms of politics, the collective, governments. So look at the news, see what's going on, see how desperate people are to get their way, and how desperate they are to not fail. And in the process, they might do things that are really quite regrettable. It may be a question of the means justifying the ends, people prepared to commit huge acts of violence to get their way, and just absolutely refusing to compromise. So those are a couple of things about today's astrology, and I think that does spill. I think that does spill into Sunday. Now, as far as the 12 signs are concerned, I'm going to quickly go through them. Aries, you're feeling good about yourself, and you're able to unfurl your wings, but don't take a sledgehammer to crack a peanut. Taurus, home is where the difficulties lie, and family members could be a real pain in the neck. Gemini, you want to be free and flexible, but there are responsibilities to deal with. Cancer, relationships are strained, and it may be a time when you can enjoy your own company. Leo, you're becoming more assertive, but in the process, you may get involved in a power struggle. Virgo, it may be a Saturday, but career matters are never far from your mind. Partners are a drag on your creativity. Libra, what is the difference between a friend and a partner? Today, you may get some hints. Scorpio, you're steamrolling forward, and your plans for the future are taking shape. Sagittarius, other people do matter, and your job is to make them feel comfortable. Easier said than done. Capricorn, there's a mess that isn't your fault. Perhaps it will clear up all by itself. Aquarius, someone new is entering the scene, but are they your type of person? And finally, Pisces, you're causing a hold-up. Perhaps you know something that other people don't. Now, as far as the I Ching is concerned, I asked the usual question: what is Saturday going to be like for visitors to my YouTube channel? Now, the first hexagram I got was hexagram number 9, Taming Power of the Great. Now, using the Wilhelm translation of the I Ching, the symbol it gives us is of dense clouds but no rain. You know, we want things to happen. We're ready. We can see the clouds, but it doesn't rain. So however ready we are, we must accept the fact we're not going to be able to make the move. And it's perhaps about huge forces, bigger than ourselves, that are holding us back. And we need to accept that situation. And I think what many of us may try to do today is to move forward, to try to take the initiative. And as soon as we do that, we see a block. Oh, so what is the sensible thing to do? You know, what is the mature thing to do? Well, in fact, the mature thing to do is to turn back. It might seem a humiliating thing to do, but it's actually the right thing to do. And in a way, it's a courageous thing to do. You know, we know that we've got to do what we have to do. And there's no point in engaging in something when we have no chance of success. And this hexagram number 9 transforms into hexagram number 37, which is the family. So put the big ideas on hold. We're not going to be able to achieve them. And today, just focus on your family, chill out, relax, see what insights they've got, perhaps reconfigure your priorities, and maybe later, in a few days' time, perhaps when things have changed, you'll be in a better position to get the things that were denied to you today. Anyway, that's all I'm going to say for today, and I will talk to you tomorrow.